Hello, this is PJ Capozzi, Superintendent of Schools for Oregon 220. Last month, we started a new process in which I shared my report, which I normally share just with the Board of Education at the board meeting via video. It received welcome praise from our community and our staff. So not only are we going to continue that, we're going to extend that, and I'll preview the entire meeting for those that cannot be in attendance. So in order to do so, I will toggle between this, which is the slide deck I use to support the board meeting, the actual agenda, and then some attachments so that people can see as much as possible. The intent is in less than 10 minutes to give the community and staff a full understanding of what's going to be taking place at the meeting so they can decide whether to attend or not, or just be up to date on what's happening within the school system. So with that said, I'm at this point going to move into our actual agenda. So you can see our meeting starts at 6:15. Open session is going to open at 6:30. So if you've never attended a meeting, we call the meeting to order and approve the agenda, and then almost always immediately move into closed session. We take care of whatever business we have in closed, and then we start the open session meeting at the time designated. You will see here that we have some work to do before we go into closed session, which is an anomaly this month. But as a result of Dr. Molly Baker, who had multiple years of really high quality service to the Board of Education, resigning in the middle of her term, the board was able to interview and select a new board member. At last month's board meeting, they named Jessie Graff as the newest member of the OCUSD board, and she will be sworn in before we go into closed session. She needs to be sworn in, so she's a fully vested board member before she can be kind of exposed to some of the content that we'll talk about in executive session. Executive session this month has two core items. One is fairly simple. It's the first part of my evaluation process. The board evaluates me each year. What the board will be considering and discussing in closed session at this point will be the evaluation marks that my subordinates, my direct reports, and the union provided in terms of a 360 evaluation. And then next month they will be finalizing the evaluation process. Additionally, we have been going through a collective bargaining process with our teachers union, the Oregon Education Association, and we have reached tentative agreement, which means that nothing is solidified at this point, but we have come to agreement on the core concepts. And now that we are getting additional feedback from the district side, from our attorneys, from the union side, from the state level association, and we'll share the detail with the rest of the board who is not part of the bargaining process. The bargaining process only consists of two board members, so this will be us debriefing with them. Once we enter into open session, we go into the consent agenda. The consent agenda are items that need approval, but are not expected to have discourse around them. And so I'll preview some of the interesting items for you in the consent agenda before we get down into my report. Of interest in here is our annual Chromebook lease agreement. So if any of you have had students go through, particularly seniors last year, you would know that by the end of their time in school, their Chromebooks at that point were 6 years old. And this year, our seniors have 5-year-old Chromebooks. The intent with our leasing program that we now have a system built out for is that no student will have older than a 4-year-old Chromebook, with the exception of Chromebooks on carts that we have at some of the younger grades, or potentially some rental Chromebooks. But no one's main Chromebook should be older than 4 years as a result of getting situated and continuing on with the lease program. So we will be approving that contract. We'll also be approving the lease of 6 buses. These are not 6 additional buses. We currently have 6 buses on lease. Those leases are coming up, and now we are just starting the lease of those buses. If you followed along with board work earlier this year, what we're going to do in terms of purchase and acquisition of buses has been a hot topic for months and months and months. What we've decided to do at this point is essentially hold steady. The buses we own, we're going to continue to ride to get as much out of them as possible. And those that we leased, we're just going to continue to lease as we move forward. As a word of awareness to the community, we have the oldest fleet of buses in the county, and bus purchase acquisition is going to be something we have to continue to consider in the years that are coming up. And lastly, time clock purchases. We do not have time clocks And so as a professional organization, we believe that we should have time clocks. And while it costs a bit of money up front as an investment, we believe that it could actually in the long run end up being a cost savings. So we worked through this process collaboratively with our bargaining unit to not only set out the parameters, but to do the entire shopping process. So we're very confident in what we are acquiring with our time clock purchase. We are recognizing 2 staff members for going above and beyond, Bella Dahl and Brittany Groenhagen. Brittany does an incredible job at the promotion and organization of Down Syndrome Awareness Day. And Bella had this really great opportunity that was really largely bestowed upon us by Rep. Tony McCumbee. Our students at the elementary school last year had an opportunity to come in during the summer, work on Christmas ornaments, and then have our student designs and ornaments be hung on the Illinois tree as part of the National Christmas Tree presentation in Washington, D.C. You'll see next, I go over the fiscal year to date. So the fiscal year to date is how we're tracking compared to our budget. And for the most part, we're dead on with what we wanted to do with our budget this year, but there's a handful of things that are driving a bit of overages, which I'll explain to the board when we meet. Just a preview of some of those things are when we have students that move into our district from outside that are requiring outplacement for special education. They need a level of service we cannot provide here. We have had several of those students move in this year. That costs money for us. There's no way for us to budget for those move-ins. Likewise, we have had students who we have deemed the best way that we can provide them service is to provide them additional support, and whether that might mean an aid or more restrictive placement, sometimes that can cost money as well. Another area which it's impossible to really budget for, but occurs, is when people that work for us have life-changing events. They might go from not having insurance to then claiming insurance. And so we've had roughly about $100,000 in additional expenditures this year by people that did not have insurance at the beginning of the year that claimed insurance later. And lastly, we finalized the OESPA collective bargaining agreement in December of this year. So in January, people received raises that we did not budget for because we did not know the amount of the raise when we approved the budget in July. This, in the last 2 years, if any of you have been keeping up, we have moved to as many video reports as possible. So you can click the link on the agenda that is sent to you to see the athletic and activities report. For my report, the couple of things that I just want to go over. We can skip kind of A, B, and C as they're just kind of formulaic and we have them on every agenda. But we have taken action as a Board of Education to leave our insurance cooperative and to become a fully insured single entity for insurance. And so what that means is that our initial renewal projection inside the cooperative was a 25% increase, which means to our staff and to our district, which means our taxpayers, it would have been a $750,000 increase. Through months of shopping and negotiation, we have been able to get that number down to just about equal. We might be a percentage point or two on the renewal, or might be a percentage point or two in terms of a negative renewal. So the work that the district has put in over the last several weeks and months has quite literally saved nearly $750,000 to $800,000 year over year in terms of insurance cost. We have also launched our app last year, but now we are able to allow people to opt in to athletic updates, which means if you opt into it on your app, when the athletic director or someone in administration gets a final score, we can push out. So last night, I'm recording this on Wednesday, last night our girls soccer team won 7-2. We could push that out and you get a push notification on your phone. So if you're very interested in sports, it's a really cool way, very easy way to stay connected. Panorama is what we use for our culture data, which allows us to assess where our staff and how our staff feel about how we're doing as administration and how our team is coming together. This link will allow you to go ahead and transparently check out every piece of that data so that you as a community member can know just as much as I do as superintendent in terms of our culture. And 2 thank yous that I wanted to give in my report. The Etnier Foundation year over year gives approximately $30,000 to $40,000 in grants to teachers who need everything from supplies to new tables to things to support our agriculture and industrial arts classrooms, you name it, they supply it. So we wanted to say thank you to them as they have just recently named their award winners again. And this coming Friday, so depending on when you watch this, Friday the 17th, we will be recognizing our retirees at our retirement dinner. We're losing over 275 years of experience with retirees this year, so I just want to take a second to thank them. In terms of old business and new business, old business, we have worked with OCEC throughout the course of the year to try to find cost reduction mechanisms. As a result of that work, we are receiving, for every classroom we host, essentially one student tuition free attending those classes. So what that means for us is nearly $180,000 in savings. So between that and insurance work, and not sticking with the status quo, it's nearly $1 million of savings, of which we'll discuss at this board meeting alone. In new business, there are 3 action items and 2 first reads. The 3 action items are pretty straightforward. We went through a complete bid process where we went out for RFP, tried to contact as many auditing firms as possible, receive sealed bids, open them, and then with the board, with one member of Board of Education, we interviewed auditing firms. And so we will have a recommendation for a new auditing firm, which the recommendation I'll be putting to the board is to move to Sikich as our auditing firm. One of the complaints that we have heard in my 2 years here, particularly with our senior exit interviews and talking to staff, is the viability and the value of Hawk Huddle. So we have a new idea of moving Hawk Huddle to the end of the day and helping it to incentivize the behaviors we want to. So we'll be talking about making that switch. And lastly, we currently partner with Oregon Park District, who is probably our absolute best community partner. They've been wonderful to us in any number of ways. But right now, the partnership that we have with junior high across country is one that is a bit cumbersome for them, and they approached us and asked us if we would want to take over that entire program. And so for us to take over the program, it'll be a net cost of about $1,000 for us to take it over, take that off of Oregon Park District's plate, and then have some more authority and control over it. So that'll be a recommendation I make. You see Press here, which is a subscription service that we subscribe to that takes all of the laws that get created in the state of Illinois. Many lawyers from different firms work together and help create policy over that. For policy, we take 2 reads to pass that. So all the recommendations that I have are available via the link. All of the policies impacted are detailed for you. And student handbooks are approved each year. The first read of the handbooks are in this month, which means that next month, under old business, items D and E will then be populated as part of old business where the board takes official action on it. If you've made it this far, I sincerely thank you, and I thank you for your interest in our district. Hopefully this was informative, and we'll talk to you next month.